Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the LFC Transfer Room. Today, we've got some amazing topics to go through. My name is Lewis, but today I am joined by Tom and Dan. We are expecting Paul to be jumping on as well, but he seems to think he's some sort of celebrity. He thinks he can keep us waiting. Don't think so, Paul. You can join when. Oh, here he is. Actually, I tell a lie. Here he is, Mr. Celebrity. Thinks he can keep us regular people waiting. Does he? How dare you, Paul? Anyway, right, I've had my rant now.
After,
Everyone good? Tom, how are you?
Yeah, good. Cheers. Happy after yesterday's win, so good start to the new year.
Let's hear it. Dan, all good?
Oh, good. Can't complain, Lou. How about yourself?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good, man. Feeling happy after the results. Yeah, I mean, I think it was a win that we not desperately needed, but it was a statement win, that getting a one against Newcastle. Paul, how are you? How are you getting on? Happy with the result yesterday?
yeah, didn't happy with the 2 goals we conceded, but I guess not as perfect. So the 3 points is what is important.
Well, I mean, yeah, we conceded 2 goals. I think Damon and Dan discussed it really well yesterday. It was a game that, yeah, we conceded 2 goals, but ultimately, if that flattered to deceive, I think, for Newcastle fans. And, you know, we could talk about that match all day, but today we have to talk about transfers. Of course, in January time, there's a lot of deals going around at the moment. But just before we get into that, please, everyone, make sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons. We're really close to 10K. We're less than 100 away, so we can make that happen probably within the next month, actually, if things keep going the way they are. So please make sure you do it. And we need to talk about the elephant in the room, Kylian Mbappe. Now, I was asking Tom and Dan before the stream how you pronounce this. Le-Parisien. However, I'm not French. Dan gave me a thumbs up for that one. But yeah, so apparently, according to the reports, we are serious contenders for Kylian Mbappe. Tom, I'll put it to you first. I mean, is this just more rumour mill, or do you think there could actually be something solid to this?
I think, again, it's just rumour mill, to be fair, but I think it shouldn't be. Like, with top 4 biggest clubs in the world, one of the best teams in the best league in the world, so we actually it shouldn't be a joke that we should be in for a player like this. Like, I honestly think he would come to us. Like, there's no reason why he wouldn't. Like I said, one of the biggest clubs in the world, in the best league in the world. There's not much to dislike about coming to us. We've got one of the best managers in the world as well. So, like I said, I think obviously he would like to join us if we came in, and obviously we would want him. But again, it always comes down to FSG, doesn't it? And whether they're willing to put that money down for him. Obviously, he's out of contract in the summer, isn't he? But obviously the signing on fee, wages, etc. I think will price us out of it, unfortunately. But like I said, you would like to think that a club like us would be able to attract someone like him.
Now, Dan, I'll go to you with the next one. Now, there's a lot of mitigating circumstances around the Mbappe transfer. I think the big one is money. Now, he is a free transfer, technically, coming off. Obviously, his contract runs out in 6 months, but the wages would be astronomical. With that in mind, is this something that we could feasibly see FSG doing?
I mean, before the Caicedo deal came through, I would normally say no, just because the fact that, we just haven't seen that amount of outlay of money. However, consider hypothetically, yes, I think it could happen. My only question is why? So if you consider all the players we've been linked with and where the gap is in the squad, I mean, yes, Salah's on AFCON, and we don't know the news now about Szoboszlai with his hamstring. We don't know if it's just tightness or if there's any damage to the muscle. And we don't know how long he would theoretically be out for, if it's just, a week or 2 weeks or anything else. I mean, I think the reason Mbappe always gets linked to Liverpool is because everyone knows that there is a mutual respect between the camps. I just don't think it's ever going to happen. I think the window to get Mbappe to Liverpool was 3 to 4 years ago, probably before he signed that mega deal with PSG, and that would have been the window they could have gotten him. But at this point in time for January, I just don't see it happening. The only reason this is being linked is because his deal's up. there's that theoretical January 15th deadline for Madrid. And if they don't get him, they're going for Haaland. All that news talk, which is a really weird news article. For me, it's just gossip. Like, if there was any legs to this, we would have heard something back in early December, and we would have seen much more, I would say, noise coming out from this potential deal. But right now, I don't think it's happening. I think we should. It's fun to talk about. I just think we should always look at Mbappe as kind of like there was a moment where we could have gotten him, but that moment has passed, and Liverpool need to move on to other players and to other positions, and get the future Mbappe rather than like the Mbappe of today.
Well, I think that's a really interesting point, actually. You're saying the future Mbappe, not the one of today, but Mbappe's future is still quite bright, I imagine. I mean, he's what, 24, 25? Like, he's still got a lot ahead of him. And I mean, Paul, is that something we should maybe consider a reason why we should be going for Mbappe because of the age? Is he a player for the future, or is it just sort of, like I asked Tom before, is this just a theoretical transfer rumour roundabout, which is just to get clicks on channels?
Well, actually, this is the first time in the last couple of months I started to believe that it's possible that we will get him. Well, there's no chance we'll get him in this January window here, but I think there might be, I'm going to say, a 33 and a third chance to get him in the summer for a couple of reasons. First of all, if we go for Mbappe, is if we are convinced that he's a missing piece for us to win right now. But one of the reasons why I think it's maybe possible is, one, I think Mbappe is more desperate for Madrid than Madrid is desperate to have him, for a number of reasons. One, they have Vinicius Jr., who plays on the left side. And it's well known that Mbappe does not want to play through the middle. He wants to play on the left side. I think Madrid would be more interested in getting somebody like Haaland from City to play as a number 9. So I'm not saying that they wouldn't take him, but I don't think they're that desperate for him, or they're going to move heaven and earth to get him. So if it's not Real Madrid, I would think that we are the only club in England that would be in for him, or that he would want to come to. Yes, his salary is going to be astronomical. But if we don't have to pay much of a transfer for him, I guess we can use that money saved to offset his salary. So whilst I'm not crazy to have him because of all the other baggage that he brings, but there's no question that if we could get an Mbappe to play on that left side with Salah for another year or two on the right side, it doesn't matter who we have in the middle. I think that would be some fearsome attack. So I'm not keeping my fingers crossed, but I'm not saying it's not possible. I think there is something to it, probably.
I mean, we've heard all the reports, in the past that Mbappe, his parents are fans of Liverpool. We've heard them in conversation with us. And, there's a comment here saying, come on, guys, have some serious transfer news. This Mbappe and joining to Arsenal is a joke. I think every big club has been linked with Mbappe at some point. I think it just goes round in circles and it's just come back to us. Now, there's really interesting points, Tom, of where would he play? We've discussed the money. Paul makes a good point. Do we need a player in that position? I suppose another thing that needs to get mentioned is Mbappe has personality conflicts with a lot of people, players, managers, ownership. That's not something that we see a lot of at Liverpool, and when we do, we're very quick to get them out the door. I mean, is that something else we need to consider with this transfer?
I wouldn't say so, really, to be honest. There's obviously a lot of mutual admiration between him and Klopp, isn't there? There's been a couple of times where Klopp's got over to him at full time and stuff, and he obviously loves the player. He's the best player in the world. Although it doesn't excuse attitude problems, you can kind of get away with it when you're the best player in the world. You can win games. You can't sort of afford to sort of have a bit less sort of good attitude. But yeah, I don't think where he play would be an issue either. He can play across the front three, can't he? Right, left, or central. Obviously, his favourite position's the left, but I don't think that'd be a problem. Like I said, I'd love to see the side, and I think it just only brings good things to the club. Obviously, world-class player, brings so much revenue, brings so much spotlight onto the club as well. So I think it'd only be good things signing him. But as I've said, I can't see it happening. I think Madrid is inevitable, even though they have sort of maybe cooled their interest a little bit, but I still think that's inevitable. Going to happen. But like I said, I'd love to see it because he's a game changer, and you want the best players in the world to play for your club to win the biggest honours, don't you?
Yeah, definitely. He is one of the biggest players. But just to keep it with you, Todd, I mean, you mentioned Real Madrid, and obviously we're in this conversation here, but is there a world where he stays at PSG?
I think there is, because I think we've all expected him to go for the last 2-3 years, maybe, haven't we? And he keeps on staying when you keep thinking he's going to go. So you never know. Obviously, he's French. That's the biggest club in France by far. Maybe he's happy to stay at the biggest club in France. Obviously, he's going to ruin his legacy by doing that, because you're not really going to have any respect for what you do in the French league, unfortunately. But yeah, I can't. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he stayed at PSG at this point, to be honest. Like I said, just because it's happened the last few summers now, where everyone's thought he's gone and he hasn't gone. So yeah, I'll have to see what happens.
Now, Dan, yeah, like we've Mbappe, and I touched on it with Paul before. We talked about positions. Where does he play? And there's a comment earlier on which I'll fetch up while we're going that was saying, if we sign Mbappe, does that mean we have to sell Salah? Now, where do you see Mbappe playing in this squad? Obviously, Nunez has come in for high price tag. Salah, there's rumours he's going to be going. The left wing position's still sort of up for debate at points because of form. Where would he slot into that front three? Because he would start.
I mean, it just depends on if they end up keeping the 4-3-3 shape or the 3-box-3, 3-2-1-3, whatever you want to call it, the shape, the formation they've been playing. I think if you have Mbappe, this is again why I don't think it's that realistic, because there's so many people that can play that left wing. He would have to essentially play the Mane Diaz position, where it's a left playing off the left and cutting inside, like Salah plays on the right and cuts inside, or plays on the right and pulls wide, or how Nunez play. I think you would essentially play the Nunez position of that left wing if we theoretically were going to get an Mbappe in the summer. Now, I think the reason when most of us say or theorize that you would need to sell Salah to get Mbappe is wages and potential transfer fee to pay for it. You could theoretically get an Mbappe without having to sell Salah, but I mean, you're talking again about a situation where Mbappe would probably have to be on wages closer to Van Dijk and Thiago, and not, Jude Bellingham at Real Madrid. I think if Mbappe is going to come in on 350 grand a week or 400 grand a week, I don't see that happening without Mohamed Salah leaving. And it's just one of those transfers where, again, I honestly don't think it makes sense, because it's not really the position we need to address. Like, the one thing we don't need to fix is our attack. As much as we talk about, Nunez's chances, we created an XG of 7.25, which is 25% of Man United's entire XG for the season in one game against Newcastle. The problem with our attack is not that we're not creating chances; it's just we're not ruthless in finishing them, and that could be that's because of a number of different reasons. I just don't think Mbappe makes sense as a player, for us to go for, even in the summer. I get his quality, I get everything else. If we didn't have Nunez, if we didn't have Jota, if we really didn't have the attackers, I would be all in on going in for Kylian Mbappe. But for me, it just doesn't make sense as a January or a summer transfer at this moment in time, unless Salah left and we needed to rejig how we did our attack. If he leaves, then yes, I think there is an argument for Mbappe, because you can reshift the team around him. You can even play a 4-4-2 with Nunez and Mbappe playing off each other. That's honestly just what I see from it in this whole situation.
Now, yeah, you mentioned that, and he's a very versatile player, actually, Mbappe. And Paul, we've seen this season that we have a lot of attacking players. Obviously, we know we do. It's a bit of a statement, that, but they're all interchangeable. We saw against Newcastle, Gakpo can go on the wing, then he's the false nine. Nunez assisted Salah from the wing, who was in the middle. Would our system and the way that we play with regards to that interchange of attacking players, would that not benefit Mbappe? Could we actually make him better, in a sense?
Well, if Salah leaves and then we have all of our 5 frontline players being right-footed, I don't see us continuing with a 4-3-3. You probably will be seeing us with a 4-4-2 or a 4-2-3-1 or something like that. Because inevitably, all we have been playing with Salah is having him on the wing to cutting in on his left foot. So it's kind of pointless to have one of our right-footed players always cutting in on his weaker side. So if Salah leaves, I don't see us with the 4-3-3 continuing. That doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. That doesn't necessarily mean we won't continue to score the goals and win games. I think the team is intelligent enough to adapt. But Mbappe, as I said, is kind of player, if he wants to come and the terms are reasonable, then we'll make it happen. But I don't think we're going to throw 750K a week at him just to get him here. We have more important things and more important positions that needs addressing. So is he better than what we have? Yes. But as a collection, the five that we have is more than good enough to win the champions, to win anything. So we are good.
So, I mean, are you in agreement that Real Madrid, that is just the destination? Like, it's been talked about so much over the years that if he went anywhere else, it'd be a complete shock.
Yeah, well, as I said earlier, I just get the impression that Real Madrid would like him, but they're not going to, go crazy if he doesn't come. I think if he goes to Madrid, it's going to be on their terms, not on his terms, right? And again, it comes back to he can play the number 9 position, but everybody knows that he wants to play off the left. And it so happened that Real Madrid best player right now, or second best player right now, is Vini Jr. And are you going to put Vini Jr. in the middle to enter, or are you going to have Mbappe on the other side? So, as I said, it might happen, but I would not be crazy surprised if it doesn't.
Well, there's an interesting chat here, Tom, for you. I mean, does the panel and chat still have faith in Nunez coming around? Klopp does, so I do. I agree. I do think Nunez can come around personally. If I said to you, look, Nunez, he goes tomorrow, we bring in Mbappe. I mean, in my mind, I'm thinking, is that to you just 100% done? Or could you maybe see a world that Nunez maybe fits our system a bit better than Mbappe would?
No, I don't think twice about that, to be honest. I do have faith in Nunez, but if you offer me that swap, I'm not thinking twice about that. He's still a rough diamond, Nunez. It's a weird one because even though he's not been scoring, you still don't mind him playing, do you? Because he's still such a threat in behind. You know that the opposition defense would hate to play against him because he's so physical, he's strong, he's quick, he's just aggressive. He'd be a nightmare to play against. He's always, like I said, he's always a threat. So even though he's not scoring, you can kind of forgive him because he offers so much else to the team. Whereas if for Haaland, for example, if he doesn't score, it's like playing with 10 men, and you can't say that for Nunez. So I do have faith he will come good, but if you offer me that swap, I'm not thinking twice.
Well, and to be honest, it's just something that's really came to my mind, and as anyone can sort of jump on this. We've heard in the past that PSG came when they were getting booed, they were coming under criticism because Messi wasn't running, Mbappe was not running at all. He just had his arms waved in the air. But then you look at someone like Nunez, who yesterday he was running his heart out every game. He sprints. Is there any sort of argument that could be another reason why Mbappe might not fit our system because he just doesn't want to do the running that Klopp asks of a player?
That has been my concern, and I've voiced it a few times on here. Mbappe in front of goal with the ball at his foot is probably the best in the world right now. But out of possession, a lot of times he's a passenger. And I don't think Klopp would tolerate that. So the big question is, we would have to get a commitment from him that he is willing to press, to work hard out of possession. Because we're not going to play with 10 men when we don't have the ball. So that is my concern. Can he do it? Absolutely. He's young, he's fit, he's intelligent, and he can do it. But I guess he's one of those spoiled players who has been pampered for all his professional life. So at PSG, he don't have to do it. Playing for France, he don't have to do it, except in the World Cup final when the spotlight is on him. So of course he can do it. But because he hasn't been doing it for PSG, then you would have to address that with him before you're going to give him a 750, 800,000 a week contract because that kind of drama we don't want at Anfield.
So, yeah, I mean, look, Mbappe's story, the thing is, he's been discussed so much that anything we sort of say now has been covered a million times. Everyone spoke about Mbappe. I remember Mbappe 2020, I think it was at one point when we were first linked with him. So, it's 4 years in the making. So, we're going to move on to the next topic. The guys have given some really good insight, to be honest, with regards to Mbappe. I completely agree. I think he'd be a great sign, I like the idea of signing Mbappe more than what it would actually look like on the pitch, if that makes sense. It's nice in thought, but to me, I just don't personally see it. Right, everyone, just please make sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons. Really close to 10k subs. Share, like, repost, absolutely everything you can to make that happen. It really would be appreciated. And we're going to move on to the next topic. And Dan, we're going to go with you with this one. Centre backs, and there's a lot of comments in the chat saying, a lot of players that we're linked with. They will be covered in other videos, but one that we are linked with that we're going to talk about today is Marc Guehi, Crystal Palace centre back, formerly of Chelsea. He's been making waves for Crystal Palace, outstanding player at points. Can I just get your thoughts on him as a player?
Yeah, I mean, Guehi's a really good player. The one thing I would say about him is that he's kind of, him and Anderson have that old school cultured center back and scrappy center back, where Anderson's more the scrappy one and Guehi's more the cultured one. He's really good ball at the feet. He's just not tall. He's not that dominant in the air. I mean, it's one reason why Palace have been terrible at set pieces this year, guarding set pieces. I think they've actually let in the most set pieces of all teams this year. And actually, I also don't think we've been that good at set pieces. As we saw yesterday with Botman's header, I don't think we've been as good as well. I like Marc Guehi. Palace, they don't really have any other good center backs right now. We don't know if Hodgson's going to stay. They already have other players that are linked away, Eze, Elise. They have injuries right now to Decore, and I think a couple other players that are actually really injured at the moment too. I like Guehi. I think he'd be a perfectly fine, suitable, rotational center back, but Palace aren't going to sell for anything less than 60 million. And do you want to spend 60 million on someone like Marc Guehi, who is just he's good, but I already think Juro Kwanzaa has shown more ceiling to his game than Guehi has. And I know Jamie's just mentioned the summer. I don't even think of the summer. If anybody's going to sign Marc Guehi in the summer, for me, I think it's probably going to be someone like a Tottenham or an Arsenal or someone who wants a center back that can play out from the back. I actually think Tottenham's the biggest shout because they don't. Both Van de Ven and Romeo are not ball-playing center backs. They're both kind of covering pacey center backs. But again, Ange may coach them to be much better ball-playing center backs, like Craig Dawson got coached. Who was Craig Dawson was for years? He got coached by Moyes and everybody else, and went from the scrappy, last-ditch Hull City defender to a ball-playing center back for David Moyes' West Ham. I like him. I just think the Marc Guehi ship, again, like Mbappe, has just sailed. Beyond that, there are other players you can look at. I know someone's already mentioned on here, which is a player we looked at a couple weeks ago, Lenny Euro from Lille, who I think is definitely showed a lot more, is 18 years old, has a way more upside. His stats are way more dominant than what Guehi's are. So if you're going to spend 60 million, you spend it on the 18-year-old with a high ceiling than the 23-year-old that's kind of already at their ceiling at the moment.
Well, I mean, that the comment saying, Euro's valuation's around 78 million for the time being, only 1 year left on his contract, but he is very young. He's only about 18 now. Guehi's 23. Paul, the reports are saying that it's going to be summer when we go for Marc Guehi, because that's when we're thinking Palace are going to sell. That's more likely the time they're going to, and they've got more time to invest the money. Is there a chance, though, that we could see this brought forward if another club comes in for him in the same way that we saw it with Luis Diaz and Cody Gakpo? Is that something that you could see happening?
No, I doubt it very much. For a number of reasons. One, I tend to believe that Klopp is one of those old school coaches that likes his centre backs to be taller than 6 feet. And I think Guehi is just right around about 5'6" or 5'11" or somewhere there. Secondly, he's right-footed, and we all agree that we needed a left-footed centre back to balance the team right now. Right now, we have nobody to cover that left side who's left-footed. And even if we should get him, I don't see him ahead of Konate, Kwanzaa, or probably even Joe Gomez. So I don't see a world in which we're gonna put 50, 60 million on the table right now for a centre back like Marc Guehi. Any centre back we're gonna splash that kind of money on has to be someone who's gonna come in right away and start. And as I said, I don't see him making our best 11 right now if we should have him. So I think that rumor is just a rumor. I don't think we'll be in for somebody like Marc Guehi. We are there for that kind of money. There's way better options. Not that he's a bad player, don't get me wrong, but he just is not the profile we are looking for right now. So I think that will be a pointless signing at the moment. If we're going to go to Crystal Palace to look for a couple of players, there are two other players that are ahead of him. I really, really like that French right winger, Olise. And even though I am not a big fan of the Korea, some guys on here, but the Korea would even be a better signing to me than Marc Guehi. So I think there's nothing to that signing, to that rumor.
And Tom, I'll go to you. Like Marc Guehi plays in a team which they get peppered with shots. Palace aren't one of. They've been in decline now for the past year. Statistically, Marc Guehi, he's got poor. He only commits 1.26 tackles a game, 0.68 interceptions. He's in the bottom half of the statistics for the league for that. But he's winning 4.37 clearances a game, 0.79 blocks a match, and he's actually in the top 99 percentile in that regard in the Premier League. Now, that shows to me that he knows where to put himself and where to position himself, and Van Dijk and Konate are experts at doing that. Is that not something that we could maybe hone in him? Is there a world where we could make him a better player and he could fit the system?
Yeah, definitely. Klopp's probably the best in the world, isn't he, at developing players? So if we brought him in, very young as well, 23% centre-back. So if we brought him in, I have no doubt that Klopp would make him a very, very, very good centre-back. Obviously, he already is that. He's played for England. He's got a very good partnership going there with Joachim Andersen. The very, very solid partnership they got going there. But I just don't see it happening. Like they said, I think Konate, Van Dijk, Matip, even Kwanzaa, probably all ahead of him, to be honest. Kwanzaa definitely got the ceiling anyway. So yeah, I just don't see that one happening. Obviously, he's right-footed as well as the guys have said. We need the left-footed one. We're going to get a centre-back. And also, as we said, Konate, Van Dijk, Matip, they're all strong, big, aggressive defenders. He's not that. He's more of a ball-playing, sort of knows where to be sort of defender. He's not going to sort of make crunching tackles and be like aggressive in that way, which I think Klopp does sort of like. He likes the big athletic centre-back. So yeah, I don't see a world in this where this happens, but I do think he's a very good player, and I think he will get a move very soon to a top club.
Which team do you? I mean, Dan mentioned some before. Which teams do you think he'd suit at the moment?
I can see him going to Chelsea maybe, just because they're maybe lacking a little bit in that department. I think everyone else is maybe quite well covered there. So I'd say maybe Newcastle, Tottenham, Chelsea, something like that maybe.
Yeah,
I more see Tottenham because Ange wants centre back that can play from the back, and I think he can do that. So with guys like Romero and Van der Ven, I think adding Marc Guehi to that, I could see it working at Tottenham, but I don't see it working at Liverpool because, as I said, he's too small, not the type of player that we like, and we need a left footer.
Yeah, I hear the shouts of, he's too small with regards to being a centre back, but I think if it's in that comment saying he's in a back three, if he's in a back three system and he's got other players around him who are superior in the air and his job is just to be a ball playing centre back, I think he'd suit that. So Chelsea might be a bit of a shout for him given the players that are sort of around him. Dan, okay, so Marc Guehi then, let's say it's not him. We've been linked with I think pretty much every centre back under the sun. I think if Sami Hyypiä coming out of retirement hasn't been discussed at some point, like my mind will be blown. Who do we go for? What's the most viable option and makes the most sense for us? I want your January one and your summer one.
Well, I mean, I think the problem is that those are two separate. I think that if Liverpool are going to buy a center back in January, it's going to be one they were planning to buy in summer, but for some reason, again, I think either Tom or Paul mentioned, availability, like someone's going in for them now. So if you want to get them, you have to move fast. I don't know if I'm being perfectly honest. Ignacio is just not happening. I know Steven hates that. I know everyone hates because everyone bought solo Ignacio Kool-Aid so much. He's not going to us. I don't think they're going to buy a left-footed center back that only plays left center back. If they're going to buy a defender right now, the profile defender that makes sense is one that can play, say, left back and left center back and both. And the only one that really does that is Piero Hincapié. But again, there have been any solid links to Hincapié, so they might be moving on to, okay, we're going to do something else at left back and right back. So the next defender we might buy is either going to be someone like, I think someone mentioned the center back from Borussia, Mönchengladbach. I'm trying to pull up his name because I keep forgetting it because he hasn't played that much this year. The Japanese international,
Yoro.
Yeah. Ko Itakura, who is a good. Itakura. Yeah. So Ko Itakura, I mean, he kind of fits the mold of like the best of both worlds, where you are in a situation right now where our four fit center backs minus Matip, Van Dijk, Gomez, Kwanzaa, and Konate. The only one that's really getting old is Van Dijk. Gomez is 26, 27, so he's coming into his prime and has been showing his class recently. Konate, again, 23, 24, still young, managing very easily, but again, you can see his dominance. And Kwanzaa, I think, is just, he looks better than Levi Colwill. Levi Colwill is going to be an 60 million center back over the summer. And I think the player you sign in order to fix that is either you go Lenny Euro at 18 and go for the next great one, or you sign Itakura, who is 26, can play multiple positions, again, like Wataru Endo, but can play center back or defensive mid, and you essentially go for hybrid and flexibility. And so I would say that the one that kind of makes sense, and we've been buying a lot from Germany, is Itakura, because ball-playing center back, plays defensive mid, good with his feet. Mm-hmm. You don't spend a lot of money on him. He doesn't come in on a lot of wages. You buy him, you essentially allow Gomez to be a right back or a left back or a center back without putting him in, overplaying him or being a reliant. You essentially allow Matt to either be signed to a one-year contract, but again, don't have to rely on him. And you give Kwanzaa, you can pick and choose Kwanzaa's games a bit. So you can manage him and you don't have to overplay him. Similar with Konate as well. I will say also that Van Dijk, I think, is only 31 or 32. So even though he is technically an older center back and isn't as pacey as before, I think Van Dijk has shown that he still has probably a good 2 or 3 more years being at a top level until we have to really worry about replacing him. So with all things in mind, I think Itakura is kind of the right profile. Tall, multifaceted, good with his feet, can cover a bunch of positions. In the mid-20s, mid to late 20s, not older than 27, but not younger than, say, 24, not younger than 23. I think that's the best profile that you can go for at the moment.
I mean, I don't really have much extra to say on that. I think that's the best analysis we could get with regard to a player like Itakura, why we should go for him. And Paul, I want to put to you, because I want to know who you're interested in signing, but can we also possibly make the case for a player who is pulling up trees on loan at the moment, someone who's been maybe overlooked? Sepp Vandenberg, is that someone we could possibly see integrated into the squad in the same way that we saw Kwanzaa maybe brought into the squad as we go forward?
I think he's one for the future, even though he's been around for a while. But I don't think he's someone that can really help us this particular year. we are ahead of where most of us think we would be at this point. So if we are going to make any addition in this January window here, it's got to be somebody that we think can help us to win the title, to get us over the line. So sometimes
Mm.
it's the position of need is probably more important than what dictates who you get there. For me, the position that we need is a left back, right? Robert is supposed to come back later this month, maybe mid-February, but he had a serious injury. We really don't know, if he'll be back in time or good will he be able to play a lot of games. There's a big no. We don't know. Simicast might be done for the year, as far as I'm concerned. So I'm thinking of a player like this American guy that plays for Fulham. His name slipped me right now.
Anthony
Left back.
Robinson.
No
Anthony
way.
Robinson. Yeah.
Yes.
Dan loves them.
I'm thinking of a guy like that. There was talk about this 8 guy from Wolves, but this 8 guy is quite talented, and he's a guy that we would sign if we look at him for like say Robert's long-term replacement. But I think the American guy is better defensively. He's quick, and he's in that 25, 26 age range where he has Premier League experience, international experience. So, and we definitely need a left back for the next 3-4 months. And then by bringing a guy like that, we also put some ease on our centre back as well, because then we would free up Joe Gomez to be kind of that floating player, who can come in if we want to rest Van Dijk or one of those guys. He can play at right back if we need to rest Trent. I need to bring him late in a game. So Joe Gomez is doing a job at left back, but he's actually more valuable to us in other positions. So for me, if I need to do something in January, I'm looking at a left back. Inacio, I agree with Dan, not going to happen. First of all, it's too much money. Plus, secondly, he's a centre back. He's not a left back.
Madrid are going to buy him too because they need a defender.
Yeah, right. I've watched him quite a bit since he has been linked with us, and I don't see him as a left back. Yes, he's left-footed, but that doesn't mean that he can play left back. So I think that ship has sailed. But I would love to have Anthony Robinson come in because that one move would make a ton of sense for me.
I mean, Dan's a big Anthony Robinson fan. The stream we did the other day sort of really proved that. It was really enjoyable, actually. I mean,
I was just saying that I think it made a lot of sense. I mean, I just think that if you need someone to fill if you're looking for a niche profile to fulfill a role, I think it made sense. But because they brought Owen Beck back, and the idea, as far as we're aware of, is that they're going to use him in trading because they probably don't have many left backs at the moment. They just have Scanlon and Chambers, and they're going to use him so much. Is that they're going to try Beck, see where level he's at, and just keep him around and he's probably not going to start except for maybe a cup game here and there, just to give Gomez a rest. And then they're going to keep Beck until they can figure out what is Robinson's timetable. So yeah, James is right. I think that's a good way to use the U system, is that bring back a player and see what you need them for. I mean, even with Carvalho, like I said, Dublin, it's almost like he just got an injury. We don't know how serious it is yet. There might be a situation where they brought back Carvalho. The idea is they might loan him out, but they might be like, actually, you know what? You stay on because we need midfield attacking coverage because Soboslai is injured. Salah is going to be out. Watarendo's out. Is going to be out the Asia Cup. So we could use you. Yeah. So I was all behind the Robinson challenge until they brought Beck back. I'm like, yeah, just give it to Beck. If you think Beck can do it, just give it to him back. And then, give it to Bexy for 3 games. Give it to Giggsy. See how he does.
No, this is where I disagree. If we were, hoping, on around that mid-table, 4th, 5th position, I was okay. If we can make a Champions League spot this year and then go for it next year, yeah, then Beck for sure. But right now we're at top of the table, and if we really want to go for it this year, we have some tough games coming up. We have City at Anfield. We have, you name them, Chelsea, Villa, all of those teams coming up. We don't want to have Beck at left back in those games, and we cannot count on having Robert back. So I think even for 40 million, I think that Anthony Robinson would be a no-brainer if we want to win this year.
So I just want to be the Dan and Paul show because I want Tom and Lou to contribute on this. But Paul, the only thing I would say is the fact that I think Gomez is the starting left back till further notice, until they figure out what to do with Beck. I think that's the one reason why I don't think the Robinson thing is going to happen anymore, because Beck is now going to be seen as the backup left back until they can figure it out. Now, again, they may look at him and say, not good enough, not where we need to be at. And Robinson's injury may be a lot worse than we think. And then they might go back and say, okay, we really need to get Anthony Robinson from Fulham to come in and cover as well. I do agree with your shout that, if you want to make that title push, you need senior left back to cover there. But I think that's why they're probably going to keep Gomez in that position and to come hell or high water, unless something else drastically changes. But again, right now, I think that's the good moment we're in, is the fact that we can kind of pick and choose where to go in the transfer market. It doesn't have to be one player or the other player.
Tom, want to get your thoughts on this left back situation?
Yeah, to be fair, I do really like Anthony Robinson as a player. I think he's really good. He's good defensively. I think he's good going forward. He's athletic. I think he's got the most interceptions in the league this year. So, and I was at the Fulham game. I really liked his performance. Like I said, I think he's got everything, really athletic, good both ways. So, I would actually quite like this signing, but I just think it's never going to happen. We're not really a club that's just going to spend 40 mil just so he can play like the rest of the season, and then Robbo comes back in. That's just not the way we work. I think, as we said before, if we're going to sign a defender, it should be someone that could play like left centre back and left back. I don't know if it's realistic, but I think we were looking at him in the summer, Levi Colwill. Obviously, he can play left centre back. He can play left back. He's good on the ball. He's young enough. He's a Liverpool fan, so I think he actually does. He's kind of been forgotten about, but I think he ticks a lot of boxes. Obviously, I'm not sure if Chelsea would sell to us, but that'd be a player. I think he ticks a lot of boxes in terms of what we need.
Well, apparently they need to sell Gallagher to Tottenham, and apparently all of Tottenham Tactico Twitter is all about how Gallagher is going to make Tottenham Hotspur the Premier League champions this year. No, I love Gallagher too, but but they're talking about selling Gallagher for 60 million. I'm like, why on earth would you buy Conor Gallagher for 60 million? They're going to sell him for 40.
It's because Tottenham under Postecoglou, their whole philosophy is run, keep going. And Gallagher has been Chelsea's best player, I'd say, this season. And the thing he's best at is just running his heart out and just not stopping. And I think that's why Tottenham would be interested in him, but not for 60 million. That's an outrageous amount of money. The left back situation, Anthony Robinson, I can understand, but I feel like it has a bit of Ben Davies about it to me personally, that it's just, look, we just need someone to fill that gap, and I'd much rather have Owen Beck come back as a sort of, we're being proactive, not reactive, because if we get another injury to, say, Gomez, for example, we have Luke Chambers and that's it. So I think we've just brought Beck back as a sort of contingency plan. And because that is our go-to contingency plan, I don't see us going out and spending money on a left back who's just there to sort of occupy time until Robertson comes back. If we got him on loan, absolutely fine. But Robertson's going to be back in a month, so I just don't particularly see it, if I'm being honest. But to be honest, I think you both made very, very good points. So yeah, it could go either way with that one. Just a reminder before we go on to the next topic, please remember to like and subscribe. There's some new viewers actually in the chat. Please make yourselves heard as well, and head over and subscribe to the channel. And the next topic, I think the one that's probably the joke topic, is Curtis Jones is linked to Arsenal. Apparently, Mikel Arteta is a big fan of him. Why wouldn't you be? He's absolutely outstanding. Tom, I want to go to you first with this. Curtis Jones, give me your thoughts on Curtis Jones, and why is he arguably the most underrated player in this Liverpool team?
Yeah, I think that transfer would only happen on FIFA career mode. I think one that there's just not a world in which this happens at all. I think there's a case to be made that he's our most improved player this season. Obviously, last year and all the years before, he's sort of been in and out of the team. You've just wanted him to take that next step, and I think this year he has. I think he's showed a real maturity to his game. He was always taking too long on the ball. That was his biggest like weakness, I think, in previous years, but I think he's kind of reduced that in that sense. I think he's moving the ball quicker. I think he's driving with the ball. He's showing his potential in terms of, like I said, what he can do in terms of driving with it, beating players, which we don't really have in the midfield apart from him. So yeah, I think he's been absolutely outstanding this year. He's still only 22 as well, which obviously means he's got so much more to develop as well. He's got so much time to reach his peak. So yeah, I think he's been outstanding this year, and like I said, arguably our most improved player this season.
Dan, I think Tom's spot on. I think in terms of improvement, him and Trent in particular have sort of stepped up and they've become men, so to speak, over the summer. There's maturity about them. There's a real leadership quality that they're both showing. And they play, and I've said this numerous times, they play like if I went onto the street and put a Liverpool shirt on another fan and said, you play for Liverpool, go and play how you would do. They play like they are fans. And I just want to get your thoughts in the same sort of way that I asked Tom, but B, this Arsenal transfer, is this a transfer that, from an Arsenal perspective, makes sense? Would he fit the way they play, do you think?
Not with the players they have right now. I think the reason that Arteta's looking at if we're just assuming that this is actually real and not just paper talk, I would say that Arsenal really are looking for someone, okay, how do we get the best out of Rice when we don't have Partey? Because right now the situation is that Arsenal playing a situation where their attack just does not work. They're not creating chances. They're keeping the ball. They have good shape. They can press. We saw this at Anfield. Like, they're obviously a well-drilled, well-coached team, but they don't have that attacking pattern. What Curtis Jones has been very good at, and I think it's been very underrated his development, is that he went from an attacking left winger to an attacking midfielder to now a very well-rounded 8. He used to chew the ball a lot because his decision making wasn't there. That 360ness of passing the ball and moving it just wasn't there. Now he has that whole round game where he can his game intelligence is great. He can link play. If you saw that game yesterday, and I think if you see every time you play with Curtis Jones, he drops as a 2 with Endo or McAllister. He drops in as a 6. He moves into an 8. He'll then cover a wing position or invert and come into a 10 position, wherever the space is. He's very good at interpreting space. I think he's saying like it would suit Arsenal. I think like Curtis Jones fits Arsenal, but Arsenal would have to get rid of Kai Havertz and change how Odegaard plays to like this raw 10. He would make more sense as Havertz because Kai Havertz does not drop as a 6. Havertz was a forward who they're playing as an 8, who when they play him during the game, he pretty much plays as like a target man. You hit the ball to him, he holds the ball, they move through the gears. That's again why I don't think Arsenal's attack has been working that well, because they have no way of going back to front quickly in order to transition and create space. Their best attacking player is either Declan Rice or Martin Odegaard. And if your best attacking player is ostensibly your defensive 6 in a 10, there's something else that's not working in that system. I think it makes sense because Jones's profile is what Arsenal need, an all-around midfielder that can just move through the gears, has great game intelligence, can shoot the ball, can play as a double pivot, can move up the field, can play as a 10, can play as an 8, can play as a 6, can play as a left wing, can drop it as a striker if he really needs to. He just covers so much, so many holes in the pitch with his intelligence. And also he has a great engine, and he's not pacey, but he's not slow. He's 6'1", I believe, 6'2". So all of those things put into one is why Arsenal, this link makes sense, because he gives you all of those things that all of Arsenal's bench players have. If you look at all of Arsenal's profile of players, they have elements of Curtis Jones games, but not all in one package. The only player that's close to that is Declan Rice. And again, he can't carry the team on his whole back as good as Declan Rice is the player. So it makes sense. And I think, again, this is why I said over the summer, I think Curtis Jones may actually be our best academy prospect outside of Steven Gerrard, more than Trent Alexander-Arnold, not because his technical ability is better than Trent, but because he covers so many positions that Trent can't cover.
I get that.
Because we say that Trent's a right back or a midfielder, we're not going to argue if Curtis Jones is a midfielder yet. Like, you could play him as a left wing or a left mid, and he would make sense. You could play him as a false 9, and he could probably make it work. You could probably play Curtis Jones the other third center back if you really wanted to. I don't think it gets the best out of him. I think he just covers so many positions with his skill set. And I think that's why Arsenal are interested in him. But he's not going to Arsenal for love or money, I think, at this point. Except for like £300 million and the deed to like the Emirates Stadium, so that Liverpool can keep making money as Arsenal buy Liverpool's, I think, right now the 5th best player on the Liverpool team.
if Arsenal want to come to Liverpool and say, look, here's Saka and 100 million, fine. Unless that's happening, Jones is going nowhere.
I'd still be hesitant.
God,
I'd still hesitate because Jones is such a unique as a midfield prospect. I think the closest thing you can see right now is Phil Foden, and you can see how valuable Foden is to City since De Bruyne has been gone.
Yeah,
the
Curtis
Beatles are
Jones.
apparently the only Scousers that moved to London. I love it. God.
Curtis Jones and Joe Gomez are two unsung heroes. Gomez can play obviously anywhere across the back line. So having a guy like Joe Gomez is so important because he can stop a gap anywhere there. So is Curtis Jones. He can play the 6, the 8, the 10. He can play on the left wing. He presses. He can dribble. He loves the club. He's 6'1", 6'2". He is probably right now more important to the club than even Gavin Birch, even though we know the talent of Gavin Birch. But I don't think Curtis Jones is going anywhere. We would not be that stupid, I don't think.
Paul, what? So all the reports are saying that Mikel Arteta is a big fan of Curtis Jones. Now, I mean, I've not heard anything from any other club, but I think every manager, bar maybe one or two, if you said to them, would you like Curtis Jones in this team? They'd go, yeah, absolutely love him. I think maybe Man City, I mean, even City actually maybe, like, is this just because Arsenal are title rivals with us that someone's just plucked Curtis Jones, who's been in form, and Arsenal, who are title contenders, and just put them together? And if that is the case, and say it's genuine even, how much is Jones valued?
The thing is, title rivals, even including ourselves, we tend to pay more attention to games that includes our rivals, even when we're not playing them. So all of us would watch the games with Arsenal playing, Man City, etc. So it's no doubt in my mind that the Arsenal management, maybe the Arsenal players, Arsenal supporters would have seen a lot of Curtis Jones because no doubt they've been following Liverpool. So plus they are unbiased. They're just watching the game. It's not like us who have a bias. Okay, Maka is the star, Szoboszlai. So we tend to overlook a player like Jones. So I think these guys are watching our games and said, but wait a minute. This guy is somebody that, is lacking this type of player, this profile, somebody that we're lacking in our team. I'm kind of wondering if a guy like Gareth Southgate would have the same opinion because I think that Curtis Jones could be useful in that England setup. Knowing Gareth Southgate, it might not happen because, I don't think he's that smart. But I just think it's a case of these our rivals watching our games and coming away impressed with the versatility of Curtis Jones. Bear in mind also that he plays, I think, the number 6 for the under-21s, and he was very good at it. So he's definitely a player, and he's still a young guy. I think he's like 22, 23. And he's one that is going to has a long future ahead of him, and I think he's going to be a Liverpool player for a long time. I'm hoping he gets a decent contract because I was checking this morning and I think he was like one of the lowest paid players in the team. And I think we need to fix that.
And Tom, I mean, I said it on Redmen earlier today that Curtis Jones is playing the Wijnaldum role. Like, he's not necessarily in the same way. He doesn't do the exact same job as Wijnaldum, but he's a player he'll come back and defend. He'll cover the right back spot or any full back spot that he needs to. He can get forward. He's good on the ball. And earlier this season, we spoke about how Gravenberch is the nailed-on starter and Jones is going to have to fight for his spot, but it's actually flipped the other way around. How high is Curtis Jones' ceiling? Because it's something that we've all asked at some point, how good can he get? But this season compared to last season, the step up in class is noticeable. So just how far can Curtis Jones go, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think he can go very far. I think it's still maybe too early to say he could be world class just yet. Obviously, he's still got some things to work on. But I think he's definitely making himself like undroppable in a way at the moment, isn't he? Like, I think he's making himself one of the first names in that team sheet the way he's playing right now. So yeah, like I said, the progression from last year to this year is huge, really, and I think he can be part of this Liverpool midfield for the next 5-10 years easily. And I think that you could say that maybe 6 months ago. There was a lot of doubt still. So Yeah, I think he can definitely be a part of this group for a long time, which says a lot because you need to be a very good player to be starting for Liverpool. But as I've said, maybe slightly too early to say he could be world class, but you definitely can't rule it out the way he's playing at the moment.
No, absolutely not. Go on, Paul.
One thing this has shown us though is the incredible depth that we now have in our team, especially in the midfield.
Yeah.
A year ago, we were all crying, rightfully so, that our midfield was trash, right? But now, even if we have to, so Endo is gone for a month, 6 weeks. We're not sure about the status of Soboslai. If he's going to be out for a couple of weeks, we hope not. But even so, we're not panicking because we have people like Jones who can play the 8 and 9, the 8 or the 6 or even as a 10. We have Harvey Elliott who didn't even get a game yesterday, right? So I think we are set up well in terms of our depth. Don't want to lose anybody for sure, but I really, really like our midfield right now.
No, I agree. I absolutely agree. I think I said earlier, for the first time in a long time, we have depth. And after that match yesterday in Newcastle, yes, they're struggling with injuries, and so their bench was always going to look weak. But then we looked at ours, and we had Gakpo, Jota, Harvey Elliott, all the McAllister, all these class players to bring on. Now, Dan, last thing on Curtis Jones, just before we move on to just one or two questions that have been put in the chat. Does it feel to you, and it might just be me, I'm from Liverpool, it's just something that sort of touches me a bit, but when Curtis Jones scores or when Curtis Jones does something well, it feels a bit more like there's more to it, there's more body to it than, say, if Soboslai or McAllister or Endo does well. I don't know if that's just me, but is that something you can sort of relate to at all?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because I mean, like Jones is scouts, he's from the Liverpool's academy, so it's like everything he does do well gets amped up like a lot more. As much as we love Soboslai or Wataru Endo, or even like McAllister, I feel like when like they're good, it's kind of like, well, yeah, they're good. We spent money on them; they should be good. McAllister's passing anyways, but with Jones, there is that kind of extra level of stuff. I mean, even like Trent, like people were talking about Trent like yesterday where he hit that ball on the spin and hits the crossbar. We were talking about like that might be the greatest goal they've ever seen in their life. Which honestly, if that went in, like I don't think there's Trent comparisons with any right back in world history except for maybe Cafu and like Alves. That's like a run for your money. Roberto Carlos, at that point, like Trent's just in a class of his own. And I think at some point, like we kind of accepted that. No, I think it feels better when Jones does well because it's like, it just proves something. It proves like this is part of Liverpool's identity that that Liverpudlianness, that kind of that's swag. I hate to say swagger because it's such an outdated term and it dates me as a millennial. But that scout swag, in many ways, that sort of moxie, that charisma that you just have, it just amps it up just a lot more with Jones. And also, I hate to say it because it seems like this. It's just nice to see like one of your own players just do good, but like not in like a golf clap way, but like genuinely one of the best players on a pitch that had 100 million pound Bruno Guimaraes in there that everyone was crying out that we needed. Like when you see that on a field, it just ramps it up just so much more.
Now, we're going to move on to, we've got like one or two questions because we are coming up to the hour mark, guys. Just before we get into that, special shout out to Jen LFC. She's been a member for 16 months. Really, really, love that. Really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Now, I've saved 3, one for each of you. Paul, I'll give you this one because I feel like this is one that you'll have quite a good opinion on, actually. Ivan Toney, is Arsenal the answer for him? Do we see that happening?
I don't think it's going to happen because I don't think Arsenal can really afford him. I've been hearing talk of 90, 100 million, which is ridiculous for a player like Ivan Toney. Yes. What has he done to be, brandishing that kind of price tag? And secondly, I am not so sure that Ivan Toney is really the player that Arsenal is really lacking. Because Ivan Toney is a number 9 and he can score goals. If he's in the box, he's pretty decent. But one of the things about playing 4-3-3, like what we play is, and Arsenal plays, when you have your left foot on the right and a right foot on the left, etc. Um, you lack, without a player like Jesus, similar to when we had Bobby Firmino to play like kind of false nine. If you have just an out number 9 sitting in the box, he might be starved of supply.
Yes.
Typically, to what is happening with Man United with that Hoyland guy, when you have Rashford want to cut in on his right foot, and Anthony want to cut in on his only left foot. So I'm not so sure a player like Ivan Toney is what Arsenal is looking would solve a problem. I guess because they are not scoring a lot of goals, there's this shout we need a goal scorer. But there's a lot of stuff that Gabriel Jesus does that Ivan Toney doesn't do. So I'm not worried. In other words, if he goes to Arsenal, it doesn't bother me one bit. I don't think it's going to make them any better for us to worry about them. But I don't think it's going to go because I think it's too much money for them.
Tom, I'll give this one to you. Don't know if Borussia Dortmund can afford Jadon Sancho. I mean, where does he go now? Just what do you think happens to him both in January and the summer? Where does he go? What happens? Just your thoughts on that.
I think Dortmund is the obvious solution, to be fair. I think maybe a loan in January with an buy option in the summer. I can see that happening, I think. Obviously, that was where he made his name. That's where he sort of made himself as good as he was. Obviously, it's gone absolutely pear-shaped at Man United. So I think to go back to the place where he made, like I said, where he made his name would be the best solution for all parties. Players get away from the Premier League as well, the spotlight of the Premier League. I think it'd be good for him to just go back to the Bundesliga, try and get his career back on track again, and then maybe in another 2-3 years, try and make that next step to another top club. Obviously, he's only still like 23 or something, isn't he? So he's still got a long time ahead of him. So yeah, I could see a loan in January with an option to buy in the summer, and I think they could definitely afford him because I don't think Man United can afford can sort of charge an expensive fee with the way he's been playing lately. Well, he hasn't been playing at all, as you said.
Yeah, he's training with the under 21s or the reserves or something daft like that, and someone for that amount of money for that to happen to, just swallow your pride, Ten Hag, seriously. And Dan, there's actually 2 questions for you. Are you back at school tomorrow?
No, I still have this week off. I still got a couple of days off to enjoy myself, which would be nice.
Oh, happy days! What date do you guys
Next
go back?
Monday. Next Monday.
Oh, right, okay. I didn't know how it worked in America. I didn't know if it was like it was similar to the UK or.
It depends. Our schedule is a little bit weird. So we actually we get a little bit longer for winter. So we actually don't go back to January 8th. So that's when I have to go back. Go back in. Sadly, have to wake up at a decent time now. It's sad.
And the next one, then, last one for Dan, for you, just to end it off. If Jones does leave, we sign Thuram. We've spoke about Thuram a lot in the past. Just want your quick thoughts. Is that feasible? Could that happen?
Downgrade.
Well, the premise of the question is fundamentally flawed because I don't think Curtis Jones will ever leave. But I know Jay Muse. I think was that Jay Muse's question? Was that I didn't see it.
Yeah.
It was Jay Muse. I know Jay Muse loves Kefren Thuram. So here's my thing about Thuram. I don't think you need to sell Jones to buy Kefren Thuram. I think there's an argument that you can buy Kefren Thuram in this winter window or in the summer and kind of have your midfield rebuilt because we know Thiago's going to leave. If not this summer, the next summer, and you will probably need to bring someone in unless they think Carvalho can step in and do it, which again I think there's a possibility to do that. If you sell Jones, I don't think Kefren Thuram is the right player to do that because I think the replacement for Jones is Ryan Gravenberch. Like Ryan Gravenberch is the player right now that I think is on that Curtis Jones path where he's a bit wasteful with the ball, he's a bit inconsistent. You can tell there's talent there, but it's just not quite working just yet. So I don't think Kefren Thuram is the way you would go. If you lost a midfielder like Jones, you would want to go say like all out on like this is the best we can possibly do at any position to put you in this midfield. And right now, I don't know anyone. No one comes up at the top of my head right now that you would buy except for like a Lucas Paqueta or I'm trying to think of who would be a world-class midfielder right now. Who's that midfielder at Bournemouth that's really good? Alex Cook or what was his name?
Alex
Scott.
Brook.
Scott.
Alex Scott. Sorry,
Scott.
Alex Scott.
Alex Scott. I would go out and get someone like an Alex Scott. Someone that is very much on that upward trajectory that you could take for a player from that as well. But I just, again, Liverpool, when they're like the players, they have a profile on you till you turn 35. So I'm not saying that the Kevin Durant links are invalid or they may not move for him. I just think that, again, like some of the other players, I think they've already bought the profiles they like and they're moving on. So now they're probably going to start looking at, okay, what is our next profiles we want to get? And that would be, I think, your left backs, your right backs. What do we want to do DM long term? And then obviously Salah's replacement. I think that's your four most important profiles that you have to look at right now. I think everything else is just sorted and academic at this point. But fullback, defensive mid, and right wing are probably the next profiles they're going to be looking at doing. And if Thuram can do any of those, I think it'll be perfect. But again, that's just my opinion. I don't think Thuram is not a Curtis Jones replacement.
And one last comment saying stop with the Mbappe stuff. It will never happen. Well, we are actually going to stop because the stream is over. Just want to say massive thanks to Tom, Dan, and Paul. As always, they're giving their fantastic opinions. Make sure you go follow them on Twitter. Just really appreciate coming on, guys. If you are new around here, I've actually been keeping tabs on the channel as we've been going. We've gained 8 subscribers during this, which is fantastic. Everyone who's watching, please make sure to hit like and subscribe. We are now 82 away from 10k subs, which would be fantastic, absolutely incredible. Yeah, please just make sure to like and subscribe, share, repost. If you want to go see us daily, there is daily streams, 7:30 p.m. UK time, and there's a 2 a.m. UK time stream for the American audience on a Tuesday. Any matches are on, post-match reactions. We do them all the time, so please tune in, and we will see you in the next video. Have a great night.